Hey, I'm Dan, and if you're new to homebrewing, so am I. Welcome to my adventures in homebrewing. Hey everybody, it's Dan once more. It's time to go around the world one more time and have a beer or two along the way. Thank you very much for joining us. And right now, we're very fortunate to have two of the three members of the Homebrew Happy Hour. Hopefully the third will be able to join us. Yes, we have Josh with us. He's not the third person who's missing. We actually have Todd and Josh with us. James hopefully will join. These are three really great guys. If you haven't seen them on YouTube or followed them on their podcast or through Instagram or their website, Kit Connection, CM Becker, and homebrewhappyhour.com, their Patreon channel, and the Super Duper Homebrew Club. See, I got you all, buddy. I got you all.
I love it.
And this is where I actually, before I actually went out and bought my new rig, when I got back into homebrewing 2 years ago, I watched their videos and all that. And James was actually the guy who gave me the most information that I needed when I went to go buy my all-in-one electric system, which was fantastic. Boys, thank you very much for joining me today. Greatly appreciated.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you very much.
No problem. So, Todd and James, how did you guys meet?
We met, let's see. Well, Josh, I hired Josh. He was working for a nonprofit making like 35 cents an hour, I believe.
It was, yep.
And what year was it, Josh? It was
2008. It was March, or pardon me, it was May. You hired me May 12th, or was it May? It was either the 9th or the 12th, 2008. Is when I first started. I interviewed a week before because I was making $5.10 an hour, or maybe it's $5.15. And Todd was offering $5.30. So I was like, man, this is a huge no. I forgot what you started. You started good. It was like $8, I think. But at the time it was good. It was 2008, and I went in for my interview because I read on a Craigslist ad that I was living in San Marcos, which I live in San Marcos again. I've made it full circle. And Craigslist said, growing internet company selling homebrew equipment or something like that. It was a manual labor position. I don't know if you know this about me, Dan. I don't like manual labor. It's not my thing. And so I went to the interview, and if I'm anything, I'm honest. And I told Todd, and I told his wife, and I told their sales manager. There was 3 people working for the company, with Todd and his wife included. And I told them, I said, look, y'all are an internet company, and as you grow, the things I'd like to do for y'all, like graphic design, web development, that stuff, you'll need in the future, but I'd like to hop on now. But I'm going to be terrible at this whole keg washing thing. But I'll do it if you hire me, just so I get the experience. And, I could see Todd being uneasy. Fortunately, his wife likes me, and I made a good impression on her. And they took a chance on me, right, Todd?
No, we did, and he was absolutely right. He was terrible at manual labor. We hired another guy. We hired another guy to help because we got really busy to wash kegs. I could hear Josh in the backyard, because it was literally in my backyard at this point. We had a shed, and it was very small. I could hear him back there going, could you slow down a little bit? You're making me look really bad here, Yeah.
I was like, hey, man, this is a run out the clock situation. What are you doing?
Pretty quickly, he started doing marketing, I can assure you.
There you go. So what you're saying is that you're all thumbs.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, so I actually did manual labor for a sprinkler company, man, in my high school years, every summer, or 2 summers in my high school. And I dug ditches for the sprinkler company. And so I just learned quick that manual labor was not for me. It's just not something around the house, I get stuff done. I just don't like doing it. And the keg washing thing, like I said, I can joke and laugh at myself all day because I'm honest with myself. Manual labor is not something I enjoy doing, but I saw the opportunity to hopefully grow into a position that I did want to do. And so it was worth it to me to be pseudo adequate at keg washing for a year before I started being able to keg wash for half the day and then go inside for half the day, and then and a couple years later keg wash and do orders for a quarter of the day and then go inside for 3/4 of the day, and so on and so forth. But I'd like to think that I earned where I'm at now. I'd
So
like
what
to
you're
think.
saying is that you were earning your beer as you went.
Absolutely, I did, and I wouldn't even. I didn't even. I was so young. I was 22 when he hired me. I'm about to
Oh,
be
wow.
36. Yeah, it's coming up on my 13th anniversary with the
Oh,
company.
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, he gets me like a little Cracker Jack box, and he lets me drink his beer, so it works out.
Let's not joke. I forget every year, and he has to remind me, and I'm always embarrassed. He's like a second wife. I mean,
Todd, you can admit he's the reason why your hair went so white.
It is. It is. Yeah.
It is. Oh, it is. It is.
Awesome. So, you guys have had some amazing adventures. Like you've been to Germany, I think a couple times.
Yep.
You've been a few homebrew con a lot of times.
Lots of them. Yes.
So, how did Cake Connection and the Homebrew Happy Hour come to be?
So I'll give the preliminary answer, and you can kind of fill it in, Josh. So, Keg Connection came to be because my kind of two parts. One, my wife bought me a kegerator for Christmas, and that's something that a lot of wives don't do, right? I mean, I was impressed when she bought me a kegerator for Christmas, and I went to buy kegs, and I had a difficult time finding some, but I found some, bought them, and I started looking online, and I was like, wow. I could use some extra money because I was working about 60 hours a week, full-time job, gone almost all day, all week. I would just be there mainly on Mondays and Fridays. I bought these kegs, and I talked to the guy, and I said, I'd like to buy like 100 of these and just sell them on eBay, because eBay was bigger then.
Yeah.
Or not, probably not bigger, but it was a huge player then. And that seemed like a good idea, that I would just wash them, and then my wife would put them in a box. She'd ship them out while I was at work, and the guy was like, I only sell truckloads of them. You got to buy, 3,000 of them. So I went to my wife and I explained the whole harebrained idea to her. And she said, as she has always done, she's an amazing woman. She said, well, if you think it's a good idea and it'll work out for us, then I'll support you on it. So I bought 3,000 kegs, had them delivered to the ranch where where I actually live now, but I didn't at the time. And my dad, I had friends come over and help me unload them, and my dad was there. And I still remember to this day, as I was putting them in this barn of his, he said, I wonder when your grandkids will pull the last keg out of this barn. So that's the amount of faith that my family had in me, right? Okay. But anyway, that's how it started. And then we started very quickly moving into other parts of draft beer. And we were pretty much focused on draft beer the first 10 or so years before we really got into the homebrewing side.
Okay. All right.
So Homebrew Happy Hour, I'll let you fill that in, Josh.
Oh, yeah, sure. When Todd had the company in San Marcos before he moved it, we were doing, like you said, we keg kits, mainly draft stuff. We didn't sell supplies in regards to ingredients and recipe kits, but when he moved the company to Comanche to be closer to where he wanted to live and stay full time, I went freelancing because I wasn't willing to move. Nothing wrong with Comanche. Comanche, actually, believe it or not, is one of my favorite places in the world now. Great food, especially for a town that, what's the population, Todd?
5,000.
5,000. And they have two restaurants, Guanajuato's and Harvest. Oh my God, world renowned food and very affordable. But anyway, I'm digressing. When he moved the company there, when I wasn't willing to move, we determined, okay, you can keep doing some stuff for me, but I don't really need you on full time. So I went and started freelancing, and something I knew I was always interested in. I'm a musician by hobby. I'm very mediocre at a handful of things in the music realm. And I started getting into audio engineering. I was doing a lot more mixing and stuff, like post-production mixing and tracking music and whatnot. And podcast production seemed like something that made sense. I like talking, if you haven't been able to tell from listening
No,
to
I
our
couldn't
show.
tell that at all. No.
Exactly. I love the sound of my voice. I don't actually. I don't. That's why I don't edit our show, because I don't want to hear my voice anymore. But I started freelance doing podcast production, a couple shows for myself for some little projects I had then for a local magazine that I was running. And then I got hired on by other people. A guy who ran a gun store hired me to do a podcast. This pro-feminist group hired me to do their podcast. And then I approached Todd, because I was doing his marketing stuff for him. I said, hey, I think we should do a podcast. At the time, there was not a lot out there besides the handful of shows Brewing Network had, and which, by the way, are phenomenal shows. Brewing Network's a great network of shows. But he was like, well, what would we talk about? I said, well, with draft beer and with the draft equipment and that side of stuff, why don't we do a Q&A? You get all these questions anyway, like sent to you by email. What if we solicited questions and whatnot? And he was like, okay, we can try this. You're not going to charge me anymore, right? We're just like this is going to be part of what I'm already paying. I was like, yeah, sure. Let's just do it. Cause I wanted to try to build up my expertise with mixing equipment. Like if I could move my camera around, you'd see my office is a slew of technology and stuff that I can't afford and don't really need. But I was able to convince him, like, give me a chance, because I think best case scenario, we build an audience and we use this for brand support. Like, Keg Connection at the time was the underwriter of Homebrew Happy Hour. There wasn't a distinguished difference. And so it was Keg Connection's Homebrew Happy Hour. And we can, promote the brand that way. And worst case, no one listens and we stop doing the show. And, we could still have the episodes there forever, because the internet's pretty much forever.
Yeah.
And so, I saw it as a win-win. And again, Todd, for all the things I like to make fun of him about, he does give people a chance to do what they want to do. And if it works out, then he's a winner, and it all works out. If not, we just shut it down. So I did appreciate that, because the podcast is my favorite thing to do by far. It's just too much fun to talk.
It really is. It really is a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it. And I mean, even though I definitely didn't tell you what a stupid idea I thought it was at the time, but it turned out to be one of your best ideas. It's something I've thoroughly enjoyed ever since. So
fun.
I know.
All right, so who knew that, Todd, you are a saint to deal with Josh? You're an absolute saint.
Right?
That's like I'm telling you.
yeah,
But
I'm no trouble at all, right, Josh?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Smart answer, Josh. Smart answer. So let's dive into a little bit of Q&A from my adventures here. So I don't know if you guys saw on my Instagram account or on Facebook, whatever else, my brewery died. Completely went bleh.
When did you post that? No, because I follow you.
Yeah, I put it up on Sunday.
Oh no, what happened?
So,
yes, I did. You're rebuilding your Robo-Brew. I did see that. Yep.
So I was in the middle of brew day. Everything had gone great, from the mash to the sparge. Everything was going awesome. And then, I paused it, flipped on the 1,000-watt switch to bring it up to a boil, pushed the play button, and all I heard was "Wonk." I'm like,
no,
that's not good. I'm like, there's no power to the elements, no power to the pump. And I'm like, let's go old school and just dump everything into the canning pots onto a camp stove. A Coleman two-burner camp stove.
I've been there. Yeah.
So has this happened before with all-in-one systems? I know with Robo-Brew or with Kegland, they've upgraded to the new Brewzilla, the 3.1.1 with the new boards and everything else. And I've struggled to get this thing up and running again, and it won't. I keep getting an error code 3. I've replaced the board. I've replaced the screen. I've replaced the thermal circuit. I've traced all the wires, everything. It's now officially dead, because I thought I had it working. Then I smelt smoke. Now the elements are gone completely. So I'm thinking it was just a matter of time of me abusing this thing, because I think I've put maybe I've done maybe 80 or 90 brews on this thing.
Wow.
Over
So,
how long? A couple years?
2 years.
Wow. That's a lot of
A
brewing.
lot of brewing, dude. That's awesome.
Well, I have nothing else to do. I'm retired.
Nothing else to do. That's my.
I mean, I work part time in a brewery, which is fantastic. Which it sparked me getting back into it, which and then caused me to find your YouTube channel, and it just kind of blew up from there. But is this like a normal thing for like some all-in-one systems where circuits and that fry, and then there's no other way to get around it but to just replace the whole unit?
I do not ever recall a customer losing. No, I shouldn't say that. Joe at Homebrew Supply, he's had them fail before almost immediately out of the box, and then the manufacturer took care of it. So, but somebody that's been brewing on it a while, I don't remember having one fail. I had one fail one time.
I was just about to say
it was a Blickman. It was John Blickman's fault because
Mr. Blickman, this is not me saying this.
Yeah,
it was okay, John. I admit it. We plugged it into the wrong plug and blew a wire on it.
Oh,
he was nice enough to send us the replacement part. So, which they always, Blickman's always good about taking care of customers. They're a big. They've always done that. So that was my fault. It wasn't their fault. So I don't really have any experience with one just going out like that.
I remember because I help on the service side of things sometimes. Some Grainfather units not that long ago had issue with the boards burning out, and I want to say, or no, Kenny doesn't brew on a grain, or maybe he does. Brewer Seville, we talk a bunch through message, and I want to say he either had a Robo Brew or it was a Grainfather that had the board blew up on him. Yeah. And I believe they were able to just replace the board. But like Todd said, I don't think the one thing people say about the all-in-ones is actually like their durability, right? And obviously the convenience. I mean, the whole reason people get into using all-in-ones is because they're so fun and so easy. It makes brewing enjoyable.
Oh yeah, it honestly, like I was terrified when I was getting back into it, saying, "Oh God, me and a propane burner." I'm like, it just bringing back memories of immersion heaters back in the field for the military, because we used to have these like big tanks or look like garbage cans filled with water, and then you'd have a heater that submerges inside of it, and they're diesel heaters, so you have to heat one part up first to get it going, then you slowly drop the fuel onto it, and if it's done right, no problem. If it's not, it blows up in your face.
Oh God.
and then all you have is like the smell of burnt hair and no eyebrows. Hence,
that's my nightmare.
Josh really hates things blowing up in his face. It's happened before,
so that's why he doesn't have any hair.
Yeah, that's why I'm balding. Yeah. It was that Imperial can. I'm going to sue Imperial for male pattern baldness.
So I was terrified, thinking I'm going to have to get a 3-vessel system, the all propane burners. And I'm like, oh, and that's when like I saw James on your channel talking about the all-in-ones. And I'm like, why have I not seen these? But I had a cardiac when I saw the price of a Grainfather.
Oh, I know, man. I know.
It was like over $1,000 Canadian.
Yeah, it's a lot. I think they're $9.95 American right now, and I think they go on sale every Black Friday for like $7.99, which is still a lot of bread. $800 for a unit. Well, again, when Mash and Boil at the time pre-pump unit, they had one for $299. I think it was $300 US. And that's cheap. You know what I mean? And I don't mean cheap like cheap constructed. I mean affordable. That's very affordable. So, and James, like you saw in that video, he rigged his own little like $18 pump solution to make recirculation possible on his Mash and Boil, or the one we had in office. So you're talking only spending on the high end after everything's said and done $350 for a all-in-one with recirculation. That's very affordable. And then that's when like the proliferation of other ones started coming out. Because what did the Robo Brew start at? I think it started at $4.29 or $3.99.
So when I bought mine, it was $4.50 Canadian.
Okay.
And the new one that I just got was like $500. So that's probably what, $2 American.
Right. Yeah. So that, yeah, exactly. I think that's the conversion rate. Yeah. No, the all-in-ones are great.
I love it.
Yeah, I've told Todd almost always dictates how I brew. When I've
No, really?
well, just if
Yeah.
no, let me preface. I can't throw him under the bus. If I want to brew and not have to pay for it retail, he then has some stipulations. I mean, it's his money.
And pay for it retail. He means and not pay for it at all is what he meant to say.
Whoa.
So that's how you got the Spike prototype.
I'm not going to argue semantics with you, boss. The Spike prototype. That's a
So
fun
that's
story.
why you're still struggling with that Spike solo?
Yeah, we are. My dad's so determined, man. He's so determined to do that thing running. But I'm ready to look. The prototype is not the retail unit, and I've always had to clarify that on our own show because Spike, the solo, the retail unit is phenomenal, and it's getting great feedback, and especially for bigger batch brewers that still want to do an all-in-one. Now, it gets difficult. So depending on the bill, like getting the basket out yourself is not the easiest thing when you go from a 5-gallon to a 10 or a 15-gallon batch. But actually brewing on a solo, not on a prototype unit where the basket had to be redesigned, is actually an enjoyable experience. But I'm excited to move on. You were talking earlier, the propane and all that. I am ready to go full-time electric. And Todd has been working on a system with James, that brow tag, that I'm actually super excited about jumping into, because it is a 3-vessel system. It's a Herm setup, and that'll be my first kind of foray full-time electric brewing, where I've brewed on 5-gallon batch all-in-ones. The Foundry happens to be my favorite. I think they did a real good job with it. It's been super reliable. But jumping into 15-gallon batches on a 3-vessel for me is something I'm actually looking forward to, because I like the predictability that a 3-vessel offers people, right? It's reliable, it's predictable, and that's something I need as a brewer, because like when we do even our cooler brew, where we've made some of our best beer in igloo coolers, but I can't do it consistently. So I'm ready for some consistency in my brew life.
It sounds like it's just you, not the equipment, bud.
Oh, I know. Oh, no, trust me. I'm very familiar with what's the common denominator. I make no qualms about that. I agree.
So what should I do with all these like I cannibalized the old Robo Brew. So I took out the pump, because the pump's still good. The board and the screen are still good, and the thermal switch is still good. So I'm kind of thinking, maybe I can jerry rig this old system into something, get like a submersible water heater for it and turn it into an HLT. And that way just maybe rig the pump up with some tubing in one way, out the other, and turn it into an HLT for sparging. Would that
right,
work?
Todd?
Yeah, I really wish James is on the show now, because that's right up his alley. Jerry Riggin is his middle name, so
It is. MacGyver's his middle name. Yeah,
I thought you were going to say it's Coulter, but okay.
yeah.
No, I mean I could see that. I don't know. It's have you reached out to the manufacturer about about
Oh
them?
yeah. So what I got from Kegline, I mean, nothing against them. I mean, they're great people, and they've helped me before with questions and things like that. But with this, it's like, well, follow the diagram. I'm like, I did follow the diagram. I retraced every wire 3 times. Even when I got the new unit, I popped open the bottom on it and looked. I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's exactly where it needs to be, and there's just no power going here. I'm like, okay, whatever. Got the thermal circuit yesterday. Dropped that in this morning. Oh, it's gonna live. Then dead again, and nothing but smoke coming out of the elements. I'm like, there's something not right somewhere.
So it has to be a short, right? I mean, that has to be.
Yeah, that's all I can think of.
And I wonder what is shorting.
So it's probably in one of the wires. It could be a break in one of the wires, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah, I mean, repurposing is always good. I just I haven't brewed a lot on the all-in-ones. I've only brewed about 2-3 times on them, just because we've been testing so many systems over the last few years. We did the cooler brew for a while, and then we really started getting into the Herms 3-vessel systems. And I need to go brew on several of them that I haven't even tried yet because people rave about them. But you did stick with the Robo Brew. You got another one. Okay.
Yeah, I got the new version, the Brewzilla. Once I popped open the bottom, I saw there was a vast improvement in how the bottom was, how it was separating not only the elements from the wiring, but the wiring from the elements, because they actually put a piece of that fire retardant insulation in the bottom of it.
Okay.
So to prevent any heat getting onto the wiring or anything else that cause anything from melting, which I kind of think what may have happened is that things overheated and maybe some of the wires may have melted or fused together, and even through their casing, because there was no protection from the heat from the elements. So now we'll see. But as long as I've had the old unit, it worked like a dream. There was a few little like workarounds that I did just for my own personal benefit, just because I had a nasty habit of clogging the pump.
What?
Yeah.
Like the first time out, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just watching videos and they're just dumping hops straight into the boil. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Turn the pump on. It's like, why is it stopped? I'm like, okay. Just get things moving around, whatever.
That's the part of the YouTube videos that you didn't see, because we've done that too. I promise you, any video you've ever seen of us brewing, you did not see the entire brew day.
Okay.
Well, me dumping the grain and during the
extract brew
during the extract brew day.
Oh no!
All I do is all grain brew now. So we got to the point where we were doing the steeping grains, and I just start pouring it in and stirring it. And I get it about 3/4 of it in, and Josh is looking at me, and I'm looking at it, and we both kind of go, "Oh crap!" So,
it was the best. It was the best.
Yeah, we refilmed that.
We refilmed that.
No, I had to take the pump apart and just go like that through the tube, and all I see is like hot mash coming out of the silicone tubing and everything else. It's whatever. But one thing I did find though, because they have the malt pipe that goes in, you get one of those extra large nylon bags and put the mash pipe on the malt pipe inside that, then set it down inside, and you get no hot particulate down inside that pump because that bag catches it all. And then you just, squeeze the bag and then go from there.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It works for me.
I like the ingenuity of brewers. Like you and James are kind of cut from the same cloth. It feels like, where it's like for me, I mean, lazy might be a word that comes up. Efficient is one I prefer, where it's like I will quickly go to the internet for Amazon and say, what is a product that can do the solution I need? Where James goes to Amazon to source products to build the solution.
Parts.
Yeah, he's sourcing parts, where I'm sourcing people or products already, where James is like, oh, well, if we oh goodness, y'all are doing something there at headquarters with adding elements to something for some kettles and whatnot.
Oh yeah, we're passivating a bunch of kettles, and we get all these parts in yesterday or today. A control box, fuses,
elements,
breakers, elements, all these things, and I'm like, this doesn't look. He's like, so we. We bought this huge container at Tractor Supply, and we're putting a heating element in it to get it to 150 degrees to be able to passivate things. So we just made it. It's hard to find a passivation kettle, right? So we made one. That's very typical of home brewers.
Yep.
They tend to be do-it-yourself type of people. So
me and power tools don't necessarily get along. So my wife has a thing. If you're going to build something, call someone.
Hey, yeah, okay. Yeah.
So like a typical Army guy, I have no problem for blowing things up in place, but asking me to build something, you're taking your life in your own hands.
You're taking.
That's funny.
It's true though. Come on. It's so true. It's so true. So if someone's getting an all-in-one system, or even looking at like say either a RIMS or a Herm system, what do you guys suggest? I mean, maybe this might be a little bit towards Todd. I mean, unless you.
Whoa! I have a lot of valid opinions, Dan.
Yes, he does.
I would. My first one being, I would ask Todd. Todd, what do you think?
That's what I thought.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it depends on what you want to do and what your situation is. So the all-in-ones work really, really well. If you've never all grain brewed before and you want to get into it, it's a great way to get into it. It wasn't an option when I started all grain brewing, or I probably would have done it that way because it's just so easy. The cooler brew type system where you're using coolers also works very, very well. I think the thing that amazed me the most the first time I brewed with coolers was when I put the water in and put the lid on and waited for an hour, and then we took a temperature reading when it was done, and it was 2 degrees difference than when we put it in there, and we were all kind of like, how is that even possible, So yeah, I think I mean, I've brewed a lot on those systems. And of course, as you know, the Herms is my new love, but it's been that way for quite a while now. I've been brewing on that for 4 or 5 years, but I do think that's something you probably want to get into after you've been brewing a while. I don't know. It would be, a lot of people say just jump right into all grain, but there's something to be said for extract brewing if you're talking about new brewers, because it takes away a lot of the steps. And if you have to learn all the steps at one time, they seem second nature to us now. But when you're starting, it's scary. You're like, okay, what am I doing next? What are they talking about mash, and what are they talking about sparge? And it's so nice to be able to learn half the steps and then switch over to all grain and learn the other half of the steps. So I think that's a still valid way to start as well. So.
Absolutely.
You know what I was always surprised by was because James, when we first met James, he had also been brewing big batch brews with his homebrew buddies, the Duster Brew House. We had them on before James ever worked for Todd. And when he started working for Todd, after you brought that Grainfather, remember how many batches he did on the Grainfather?
Did a lot.
And he was their biggest proponent, and he still loves it. But I was really surprised when he started evangelizing for Herms in regards to all grain brewing. Like I think what people need to consider when their brewing situation is their personal, like there are factors that I have that you don't have, Dan, or that Todd doesn't have. Like if I was living in a 1-bedroom condo still, the Robo Brew or the Brewzilla or the Foundry for me might be the way to go, because I don't have, I can't really do it in this tiny little kitchen, and I don't have safe access to put like a propane burner somewhere or whatever. So this electric all-in-one's better for me. If we're talking like perfect scenario, hey, money's not an option, or money is not a hurdle, and space is not a hurdle, I think Herms, I mean, I've become a believer too in them, where the control you get to just the most minute details. Like James, when he's tweaking a recipe and he's doing a test batch on a 3-vessel system, he's able to just tune it. Like, hey, obviously the ingredient side of it's a lot of it, but you just, the temperature, I didn't realize how much control you get on the 3-vessel with your temps and the consistency and whirlpooling. I didn't know how big of a difference whirlpooling made. And James now is also pushing filtering. That's a whole different question though, but like it's just
filtering.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Filtering during transferring from his conical to the, yeah, he's big. That's his next big thing now. But yeah, I think it depends. Like if I was getting into all grain, and I was not working for Todd Burns Cat Connection LLC, I probably would have. I probably because I didn't have all. If I didn't have all the tools in front of me, I think the all-in-ones would have appealed to me in my situation because
I agree.
Because they are easy to use. But if I was, a lot of people come to us for bigger batch recipes, because most recipes on most websites, ours included, are for 5-gallon batches. And when people are coming to us brewing bigger batch sizes and we start talking to them small talk, a lot of them have a similar story where I started extract brewing 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. Then I went to coolers with my buddies, my homebrew club, but now I've got this trio setup of, that almost seems to always be the trajectory of people who take their brewing more serious. And I don't mean that pejoratively, that you can't be a serious brewer on any other system than a 3-vessel. I just mean, I think people who are like, they're that much closer. They're the guys who tell you, oh, the microbrewery, that's what's next for me, buddy. I'm opening up the brewery in a couple years, whether they do or don't. But yeah.
So the guys I work for here, like the brewery I work at, it's actually 5 minutes from my house, which is extremely dangerous for me. So, but they started off as homebrewers, and they were homebrewers for a long time, and then they made the jump into a 15-barrel brew house, and it's fantastic working there. But the learning curve for the guys was like they admit it was like such a steep curve, because they went from being on propane to using steam, and
Wow.
and it's just like, holy shit.
No kidding.
And it's like, now we've got 2 30-barrel fermenters, 2 15-barrel fermenters, a couple of 7s, and it's like everything's working great. But then just last week, one of the bright tanks failed. Like it was dumping glycol like you wouldn't believe. So it's getting replaced with a brand new one, because the guys who made it are like, it shouldn't happen. We'll replace it for you, which is great. So
that is fantastic.
That's the way it's supposed to work, right?
Yeah. Exactly. But these are the guys that I usually pick their brain on when it comes to things for ingredients and things like that. But when it comes to like the brewing equipment, they were so very much, you put the pot on the stove, you use a propane burner. And I'm like, yeah, one, I'm married. 2, my wife would kill me if I put that inside the kitchen and destroyed the stove.
Oh yeah.
And 3, again, I'd burn the house down with a propane burner.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. Come on. Yeah. But if someone wanted to step into the realm of a 3-vessel, what is a good entry level 3-vessel? I mean, I've seen like some of the Spike stuff, the Trios, some of the SS Brewtech stuff, and some of the Blickman stuff looks pretty sweet as well. But what is a good entry level one? KConnection.com. You go see Todd.
Yeah,
Burns.
I mean,
I'll let him. I'll just let him plug.
It's a difficult. It's always difficult to answer, because again, it's what you want. You know, a lot of people like to brew on propane and they like to brew outside. And propane or natural gas, whichever is very fast. You know, you can heat things up very quickly. So, as far as electric, it's simple and easy to use, but you know, a lot of those systems are expensive. So there isn't really a cheap, super easy to use one that comes to my mind on a 3-vessel. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think an entry level is almost a misnomer, only in that you are not entry level brewing, probably
right
getting into it. And if you're comparing brand to brand, I think a lot of the times people go with what's the best price or deal at the time. Because what I've learned being in this industry as long as I have, a lot of brewers are very budget conscious, which is not a bad thing. I think retail in general, people are that way, right? Like, not a whole lot of brand loyalty, but I find that there are people who are diehard Blickman. And that's what I'm going with. I'm going with the, you know, Brew Easy, even though that's not their 3-vessel setup. But I'm going with whatever there are Spike diehards, and there are SS Brewtech diehards, where a lot of the time when people ask that question for us in a retail setting, it usually is trying to dive into, well, what matters to you, like the durability of the kettle, or the ease to use of the controller, or gas, or you know what I mean? Because a lot of the times it ends up being sometimes an aesthetic thing. They're like, oh, that SS Brewtech, that controller, it looks clean, so they, you know, so boom, that's why they're buying it.
I mean, when we worked on the Brewtag and designed it, our main goal was to make it easy. Because one of the things that I've found on 3-vessel systems over and over again, and I've brewed on a lot of them, is that the controls, they try to make it so you can do every scenario you could possibly think of. And you never do any of those scenarios. All you do is you put heat on it, and it heats up, and you do the brewing process. But it's so damn complicated because there's so many variables. So what was important to us, and not just in designing that system, but even changing our home systems, as we were trying to work on it was to make it simple. So we took kind of the opposite approach. We made the controls extremely simple with the option that you can turn on more complication if you want it. I'm going to guess that 95% of people won't do that. Right. There's always going to be some engineers out there that are going to want to make it as complicated as possible, especially if they're German engineers. But
no, he's not wrong. I know that's fast, but he's not wrong.
But don't take this personally, Horst.
My dad's an engineer, and we, with C.M. Becker, we work with a lot of German engineers.
We do.
Their main goal in life is to make things more complicated, right? So, my main goal in life, because I have a very simple mind, is to make things very simple, and I think if I was looking for a 3-vessel brewing system, that would be the most important thing to me, is make sure that system is easy to brew on, because at the end of the day, you want consistency and you want to make good beer. You don't want to do algorithms and determine all these things. So that would be my main thing. The other thing is, for us, a lot of people, when we think of starter systems, we think of 5-gallon. And people have situations where they may do a 5-gallon, say Herms or Rims or whatever, but to me, you're spending all the money already on all the controllers and all the other stuff. I would rather have bigger vessels and be able to brew bigger batches, but not everybody has my friends. I mean,
he means drinking.
People
you mean Josh?
Yeah, he means
and Josh too. He's one of them. I mean, people say, "Oh gosh, I would never brew more than 5 gallons because it'd just take forever to get rid of it." I could send my friends over to your house in one night, and they could take care of the problem for you.
Yeah, I have a hard enough time keeping up with family orders, because I have family and they love the alt beer I make, and I'll make 10 gallons of it and it's gone within a day. Because we'll take both. What?
We'll take both.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I like that's the reason I like to brew bigger batches. It's because we trade is one thing. So, if I brew 15 gallons, James will take 5 of it. And if Josh has brewed, I'll
he does. If I bring
reluctantly give him 5, and then
that's right.
There you go.
And then you've only got 5 gallons anyway, but you got 5 other gallons of a different beer, so that's a lot of fun.
And that's really how I recommend for people. Like brewing, the community is my favorite part of the home brewing anyway. But if you can either get with a club or a person like Todd, friends that also brew and do beer share, that's the best way to get diversity on your taps. I loved it. Ever since we started brewing bigger batches, and Todd has graciously included me in on the beer trade. I love it, because now I just took home a batch of his IPA, his grapefruit IPA, and having it on tap with our session IPA. And then I still have some of his melt stout, and then I still have some of my breakfast stout on tap at my pops. And it's nice to have diversity without, because I know you said you've brewed 80 something batches in a couple years. I'm not that hardcore. I wish I could be. I just don't have the demand there. But it's and also too, I know me. If I brewed 80 batches, it'd be 68 batches of Kolsch and whatever the remainder is, because I'm bad at math, of alt beer or something else. So I could not, I wouldn't have the diversity on my taps if it wasn't for the beer trade program.
Oh well, it's too bad you guys aren't closer. I'd have but 10 gallons of vanilla bourbon stout to share.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
That sounds good. Yes.
Oh yeah. So you got an ABV about 9.5% right there. So,
oh wow.
Do you smoke cigars?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say that sounds like a great cigar beer.
It does sound like a good cigar beer.
I have a fire table out in the backyard, and I usually get some friends when it's going, and we sit out back, and we'll have the fire going. Marshmallow stick, s'mores.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. So, guys, I wish I could stay here and talk more with you, but I'm getting flagged via text message by my wife that I need to go and get our youngest child. So good. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I greatly appreciate it. If any time I can help in some small way, in a Canadian way, I'd be more than happy to help out. Guys, please go check these gentlemen out. Check out their YouTube channel, the Super Duper Homebrew Club. Cakeconnection.com, not connections, cakeconnection.com. CM Becker, check out that Homebrew Happy Hour, not only on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not sure if they have Twitter or not. If they have Twitter, check them out on Twitter and all that other good stuff. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, and we'll have a beer sometime down the road.
Thanks, Looking forward to it. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks a lot, boys.
Thank you.
Bye.
So I'd like to say thank you to Josh and Todd for being on the show this week. Greatly appreciated. Had a great time. Unfortunately, James wasn't able to meet with us. Hopefully next time, if I get them on the show, James can be there, because the three of them together, it's an absolute riot. Lots of great information. Again, go check them out on CM Becker, Cake Connection, homebrewhappyhour.com. You're looking at also on their Patreon, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Go check them out. Great show. Also check them out on YouTube. Honestly, guys, if you want to learn some stuff and have a great time along the way, these are the guys to check out. Thanks again for coming along for the ride and beer or two along the way. I'm Dan, and I'll see you on the other side.